This is CBC Here and Now.
Not being heard, a hard of hearing student has to take a listening exam.
Obviously, people in my situation who are deaf and hard of hearing, that's just bad news.
The big land gets big floods and a power outage too, cutting off communities.
It's a tremendous development. It's gonna knock your socks off. It's terrific.
Trump impersonator, 22 Minutes star, and now honorary chair of the Victoria Park Foundation.
It's been nice for park goers lately, but we have showers, drizzle, and fog rolling in tonight and through the day on Tuesday. Temps stay mild. The details are coming up.
Well, he is hard of hearing and he's not happy he has to do a mandatory high school listening exam.
Yes, in order to pass his final year English course, Jordan Holohan has to listen to a passage and answer questions about what he heard.
That's something Holohan says is easier said than done. Here and Now's Jeremy Eaton has our story.
Jordan Holohan has been hard of hearing his whole life. The 18-year-old high school student in Mount Pearl Senior High wears hearing aids in both ears. When Holohan got his class syllabus for English 3201, he saw something that wasn't music to his ears.
Write in bold letter listening. I was shocked because it was done, it was not on the English 3201 exam at all. And then last year they brought it back.
For years, deaf or hard of hearing students could opt out of the listening test, but not anymore. Now, students have a passage read to them and then answer questions. Holohan gets his special accommodation, a quiet room, and someone reading it to him one-on-one.
For people who aren't hard of hearing or deaf, it's easy for them to do and it's easy marks, which makes sense. But then, obviously, people in my situation who are deaf and hard of hearing, that's just bad news.
The fight is not a new one for the local chapter of the Hard of Hearing Association.
Well, I think first the expression of people who had already been here when the issue arose years ago was that not again. So here we're back at square one.
Kim Pratt-Baker in the Hard of Hearing Association spoke up when the Department of Education brought back the listening portion of the test last year. It's even written letters to the minister, Dale Kirby.
From our response, we really don't feel that our concerns were listened to. They may have been heard and responded to, but we don't believe they were really listened to.
The Department of Education says it gives accommodations to hard of hearing students like Holohan. He gets a quiet room and the passage read to him one-on-one, as well as extra time. It also says its decision is supported by the Atlantic Province's Special Education Authority.
Why would you take it off for obviously specified reasons of it's just not equal, like because there's deaf and hard of hearing people and then there's not. It's just like a visual. You can't make a blind person see a visual.
With his listening test just days away, there's not much else that Holohan can do other than take the exam. Now he's hoping that the Department of Education will change their minds so that other students in his position don't have to go through this stressful situation. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, Mount Pearl.
Communities in central Labrador were hit by a double whammy this weekend, major floods and a power outage. Northwest River and Sheshatshiu were hit the hardest with no way in or out of the communities and no electricity for about 24 hours. Water levels in Happy Valley Goose Bay are still high, and that's where Here and Now's Jacob Barker is right now. Jacob?
Receded on the road out to Northwest River. They are up here in Happy Valley Goose Bay. This road out to Birch Island has been shut down. But on the weekend, we were talking about a much bigger road and a much bigger problem.
Friday and Saturday, this was the scene, flooding along about a kilometer of the road to Northwest River. Some braved the rising levels before the road closed.
I didn't think I was going to make it. She was sputtering and going and everything, man, like holy cow. I didn't think she was going to do it.
Others changed their plans.
We're not going through. We're going to go back.
The flooding was caused by a sudden spike in temperature. Melting ice on the Goose River jammed and caused levels to rise.
No one's getting through now, so we'll be providing, for emergency purposes, helicopter support.
About 20 families found shelter and hospitality at the Labrador Inn.
We've set up. We've been serving hot dogs, hamburgers, all those treats just to try to bring a little bit of hope and cheer in the midst of, again, for many, a very difficult circumstance.
If I were standing here on Friday or Saturday, I would probably be about waist deep in water, but today it's like it didn't even happen. You can see here on the side of the road. There was no shoulder. Now it's been rebuilt. Crews have been working and continue to work to fix up the highway.
Given the fact that we were hit with so many different situations at once, it went as smooth as you can imagine.
Northwest River did have generators to keep their water and sewer pumps going, but the backup power generator, which could provide power to the entire area in warmer months, was offline because of an oil leak.
If people, the main way of communicating now is through the internet and through the computer, but if the power is out and people don't have data on their cell phones, or their cell phones they can't be charged and they can't have access to their laptops or internet at home, then how do you get messages across?
Now, as for that transmission line, the damage to the transmission line from Churchill Falls to Central Labrador, just exactly what the issue is with that. NL Hydro says it's investigating what happened there. Reporting live for Here Now in Happy Valley Goose Bay, I'm Jacob Barker.
Negotiations with the largest public sector unions are not going well. Today, the finance minister said she wants to bring bargaining units together to have one big negotiation. That's before the conciliation process has even wrapped up. Here Now's Peter Cowan is here to cut through what each side is saying. So, Peter, what is the minister looking for here?
Well, Debbie, a conciliator, as you said, hasn't even finished working with both sides. There's no final report, but today the finance minister basically put up her hands and said there's been no progress. She's sort of giving up on this conciliation process and wants to try and do it a little differently. Now, neither the government nor the union will publicly say what the issues are that are the sticking points, but sources on both sides tell me that the issue isn't wages, but instead the rollbacks in benefits that the government is asking for. These are things that have been negotiated for years, and the union doesn't want to give them up. Now, the finance minister hasn't been shy about saying that she needs to find savings, but if the government isn't going to give something up, then on the other side, the union isn't going to give it up either.
I want to make sure that the issue, which we all need to be focused on, is the fact that the province still has a significant financial deficit, has significant liabilities, and we need to address those in a way that is responsible and meaningful for the taxpayers of the province and the people of the province who expect services to continue.
Now, the head of NAPE, Jerry Earle, told CBC today that, for example, one bargaining unit, there are still 40 outstanding issues. He's not happy that government is willing to give up on conciliation before that process is finished.
So why she would suggest we'd move to another process before we'd conclude a process that she actually asked for, wanted to rush into. Remember, she wanted to rush from collective bargaining into conciliation. Now appears they've rushed into conciliation and wants to rush away from conciliation. We're still prepared to have the ongoing dialogue at the conciliation tables, which it appears now from the minister's comments, they're not prepared.
Both sides say they want a negotiated settlement, but my sources say the two sides are so far apart that right now, at least, that seems unlikely. Kathy Bennett was asked today whether she'd legislate workers if it eventually comes to that, and she wouldn't rule it out. Debbie?
Thanks very much. That's our Peter Cowan reporting live for us this evening. Well, the man who represents customers before the Public Utilities Board wants the PUB to hold a special sitting in the next few months. Consumer advocate Dennis Brown says there are a lot of concerns relating to power use that need to be addressed. One issue is the extra 9% people will be paying for electricity starting in July. Brown says he is concerned hydro officials will be looking for another increase when a new transmission line is built from Bay d'Espoir to the Western Avalon. Well, police in Labrador have found the body of a missing snowmobiler. The RCMP say the 47-year-old Postville man was reported missing after leaving his home last Thursday. Ground search and rescue, a dive team, and helicopter were involved in the search. RCMP are warning the public that the ice is deteriorating and to stay clear of open water.
An inmate overdosed at Her Majesty's Penitentiary in St. John's overnight. That brings the total number of overdoses inside the prison to 3. It happened just after midnight. Prison staff used first aid and CPR to save the inmate. They also used Narcan, the nasal spray version of naloxone, which reverses the overdose. Eastern Health paramedics transported the inmate to hospital for treatment. He has since returned to the pen and is under observation. The overdose is the 3rd one reported at the prison, part of a cluster in the St. John's area believed to involve fentanyl.
Protest or talk? Well, cabbies in St. John's chose the latter today. Earlier, taxi owners had threatened to take their cars off the road, but they backed down once they got a meeting with CBC NL Minister Perry Trimper. Taxi drivers are upset about skyrocketing insurance rates. Rates have nearly tripled since 2013. Trimper says he is looking for solutions and can empathize with taxi owners.
Already started pulling cars off the road. They just shared with me some of the bills that they're receiving. It's costing some of these companies in the vicinity of $7,000 to $10,000 per car to insure it. That's a crazy amount of money to pay. So I feel their pain.
Another 2 doctors are set to leave the community of New West Valley this summer. This follows the loss of a physician last August. The town council is looking at ways to keep people in the community longer, and Central Health is trying to find replacements. Mayor Grant Burry says it's a worry in a community with an aging population.
To access a family physician on a long-term basis is becoming quite a concern for them now, right? Because once they get used to the physician, I think the norm now, within the past number of years, right, you may get a physician for 2 or 3 years, and then you're starting over with a new one, right? So the doctor-patient relationship isn't what it should be, right?
A St. John's lawyer is calling for sexual assault victims to be treated with more respect in court. Will Hiscock is representing a former cadet who is suing the federal government for damages. The identity of the woman who was assaulted by a cadet leader when she was a teenager is protected by a publication ban. Hiscock says federal lawyers unnecessarily re-traumatized his client while defending the government of Canada in a civil lawsuit.
Their psychologist, the psychologist for the government in this case, specifically went through some of the questioning and said that it would cause distress, it would cause trauma. Those kind of questions, I think, should only be asked if they are required to delve into a particular area that's at issue in this case. This case had a criminal conviction. I didn't think it was appropriate, and I decided I needed to say that to the judge to see if, in his ruling, he wants to address that issue.
The union that represents the people who maintain search and rescue aircraft in Gander is headed to arbitration. More than 35 workers have been without a contract for nearly 2 years. The local union president says they're looking for better pay and improved sick leave. The union can't strike because it's deemed an essential service. The union believes the employer, IMP Aerospace and Defense, didn't allow for meaningful negotiations.
Right now is not a very happy environment. People are disappointed and upset with the fact that we have an employer that's not showing us the respect we'd like to see. I mean, if you're considered essential employees, shouldn't your contract be essential as well?
An RNC officer testified today that a shooting victim had to be rushed into surgery so quickly, police didn't have time to get pictures of his wounds. Now, this is the shirt Charles Lacosta was wearing when he was shot 3 times inside a house in Williams Heights near Bowring Park in St. John's. 34-year-old Christopher Shaw and 38-year-old Jason Marsh are accused of attempted murder. 22 caliber bullets taken from Lacosta and ones found in the house were entered as evidence. The shooting happened nearly 4 years ago. Shaw and Marsh are also on trial for a shotgun shooting on Boyle Street in St. John's 2 months earlier.
There's no word tonight on why a St. John's lawyer has been banned from practicing law in the province. The Law Society of Newfoundland and Labrador announced late last week that Jonathan McDonald is suspended immediately, but the organization hasn't given much information about why. A news release only says its complaints committee ruled that McDonald didn't comply with their code of professional conduct.
If you are a sports fan and you're used to watching the game at your local bar or restaurant, you might want to double check to make sure the game is airing. Why? Well, because bars and restaurants are being hit with a big increase in rates from Bell and Rogers. Here now's Martin Jones joins us live from Big's Ultimate Sports Bar in St. John's. Martin, why are rates going up?
Well, Debbie, simply put, cable companies are set to score by doing it. Let's break down the play a little bit here. As of May 1st, if you operate a restaurant or a bar with a liquor license and show sports, well, on TVs like this, well, you're going to pay more. It's based primarily on seating capacity, so basically the larger the location, the more you're going to pay. Here at Biggs, for example, General Manager Jeff Thistle says they haven't seen an increase yet and likely won't until their current contracts with Bell and Rogers expire toward the end of the year. But when they do, he could face upwards of an extra $400 per month per location, and that's just for 2 extra sports channels with little choice but to pay that fee. Now, I also spoke with David Primmer. He's owner and operator of the Fifth Ticket on Water Street in downtown St. John's. He has a sports lounge above his restaurant. When he saw an extra $385 per month on his bill, well, he saw red. And he said, well, no way. And he pulled the channels entirely. But it did leave him questioning the timing of that fee increase.
I don't think it's a coincidence. I mean, May 1st, you have NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, the start of baseball season. It's probably when Canadians are watching sports the most. There's no way that both networks, Bell and Rogers, coincidentally up the rates at the same time during the busiest time of year for sports.
Well, Primmer says that sports is just a small part of his business and he can survive without it. But he is worried about those locations that don't have the luxury that he has. Like, for example, Big's Ultimate Sports Bar, where sports is literally in the name. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Martin Jones.
Drop the flame in there.
The explosions and crazy lab experiments kept kids screaming with delight at Memorial University on Saturday. We'll tell you all about it after the break.
And later, a local IT expert explains what we can do to protect our computers from the latest cyber attack.
This weather update is brought to you by the Take Charge Business Efficiency Program. Over 400 businesses have saved energy and taken charge of their bottom line. Find out how you can too.
What a beautiful day today.
Yeah.
It's like a growing day is how I see it, because all the plants are just sucking in all the sunshine and
The
popping
plants
up
and
through
the
ground.
humans.
The
Yes,
gardener
humans
is
for sure.
the gardener is back.
Yeah, that's right.
Exciting.
And welcome back,
That's
Carolyn. And here's a look at outside the CBC here, and you can see things are greening up here in the metro region. Bit of a contrast from along parts of the north coast, and in fact, Gander, just some of the last snow and some of the front yards melting there today. But have a look at the north coast of the island, where last week's north and northeast winds really have not done any favors for that pack ice situation.
No,
That's amazing.
It's affecting fishermen in some areas.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure about there.
Well,
that
the north,
looks bad, doesn't it?
Yeah, the north coast in particular, where they have that ice warning in effect. Thanks to Peggy for sending this in. You can see some of the sizes of some of those ice pans are just huge. And again, anything in the orange, yellow, and red colors here is pretty thick pack ice. And you can see with last week's northeasterly winds right into Trinity Bay there. So that'll likely be an issue for that Hebron trying to get out into the Hebron oil field. They're waiting on the ice there and will continue to wait, especially with that ice in there. There's the north coast packed in all the way up through St. Anthony. Bit of movement in the straits, which is good, so I don't think any issues there unless the northeast wind really cranks up for a couple of days there through the Strait of Belle Isle. But you can see there up the coast of Labrador, of course, that ice packed in there as always. Now, highs today, beautiful once again. In fact, back-to-back near 20-degree days for Badger, Deer Lake, Corner Brook, Daniels Harbor. The Happy Valley Goose Bay region was near 16 yesterday, 20 today. Churchill Falls back-to-back 20-degree days. Labrador City, a warm one as well. St. John's has yet to hit 15 officially. So watching a few other marks get landed first before Metro gets into the 15-degree range yet. By the way, our latest is early June, and we still ended up having a good summer when that mark waited so long. So despite the spring taking some time, there's still a chance that things can turn around here for the better. Here a look at your current temperatures. Yes, onshore southeast winds 6 degrees in St. John's, 17 Gander and Badger right now. Corner Brook is at 16, and still a beautiful evening in Happy Valley Goose Bay with 19 degrees. Now you can see those winds cranking up here. Not so strong in Rec House right now, but we do have a Rec House wind warning in effect with the potential for those gusts to be in the 100 kilometer per hour range for this evening and into 120 range through the late evening into the overnight. And that is thanks to this next system, which again has been helping push in the warmer air, but also the clouds have been building in through the day. The periods of rain have been rolling up over southwestern parts of Newfoundland. This low will move in as we roll through the next 24 hours with, again, periods of rain and those southeast winds rolling in the fog to the south coast and, of course, across the Avalon. We're going to be seeing, I think, the steadiest rains over the west coast into southeastern parts of Labrador and up into Happy Valley Goose Bay, where, of course, they are watching the flooding situation there. Looking at upwards of 10, 20, even 30 millimeters through this corridor, and then it'll actually be a mix back to some wet flurries for Wednesday for Happy Valley Goose Bay and parts of Labrador, and there's more white stuff in the forecast in the long range, even for parts of the island. We're talking about flurry potential as we move towards the May 24th weekend. Of course, we'll talk about that with your official 7-day coming up. Morning outlook, starting damp for pretty much everybody here in that 3 to as warm as 7 degree range across the island. Chance of some freezing rain tomorrow. Grand Falls, St. Anthony, that is, into the Straits, and mainly cloudy skies across most of Labrador to start the day tomorrow. And you'll note through the day tomorrow, it's scattered shower chances, periods of drizzle in between. Temperatures will be as cool as 6 and 7 in those onshore winds, even cooler right along the coast. And you can see 10 to 11 degrees in the metro region, should get to 12 along the Burin Peninsula tomorrow. Scattered showers through the day in central parts of Newfoundland as well. Steadier, a better chance of some of those steadier pockets moving into the afternoon. Temperatures generally 12 to 13, but cooler along parts of the coast. It'll be southeasterly winds to start the day, winds becoming variable and lighter into the afternoon. And again, there are some of those steadier pockets working up into the afternoon hours, 12 to 14 degrees. The northern peninsula, southeastern Labrador, chances some freezing rain lingering a little bit longer for St. Anthony, with easterly winds rolling in off the pack ice and up into the coast of Labrador. It'll be a late day shower arrival here. Happy Valley Goose Bay into the mix into the afternoon, and wet from Churchill Falls to Labrador City as well. That's your forecast. Long range details are still ahead.
Thanks very much, Ryan. Well, Memorial University played host to an all-ages hands-on science fair on the weekend. Science Rendezvous was held in 30 cities across the country.
Yes, the aim is to get young people involved and excited about science. The CBC's Jeremy Eaton was there on Saturday.
Just drop the flame in there.
Science Rendezvous is a celebration of science that is the marquee event for Science Odyssey, which started yesterday. And Science Odyssey is a 10-day celebration of science that runs all across the country. And today's Science Rendezvous is taking place all across campuses across the country. It's over 300 events in 30 different campuses, and we're very excited to have it happening here at Memorial University. We have almost our entire faculty of science, our engineering faculty, Let's Talk Science is here, Bricks for Kids. We have a wonderful exhibit in our computer science department, which is a computer-generated strawberry-eating monster. We have our chemistry department, which is putting off their magic show, which they do every year, and it goes off very well. Our physics department has their Van de Graaff generator, which is the fancy machine that makes your hair stick off. We have the Ocean Science Center here with the touch tank, and kids can literally get hands-on with science and see some wonderful marine life. And we have our math department, our biochemistry department, and our biology department also offering excellent life science type experiments as well. It's a really excellent day to come out and spend the afternoon, especially when our weather is really not that cooperative. In this day and age, science is integral in technology and innovation, and it's really important to catch kids really early and get them stimulated and interested in science, because from my own personal experience, they sometimes tend to lose this interest as they get older. So by having events like this that showcase science in a fun and creative way, they can see that it's really innovative and there's really fun things about science.
That looks really fun. I think I would enjoy that.
I think I remember those science experiments. I've pushed them out of my mind. You parents know what I'm talking about. Well, 8 people from Newfoundland and Labrador are on their way to Africa.
Yes, they're going to help out a village in Zimbabwe thanks to a lot of money from the Rotary. For more than a decade, a team from Newfoundland and Labrador has offered up support and supplies for a small village in Africa.
The Rotary Club of St. John's Northwest has been given a $100,000 grant to help out with the project.
Yeah, the group has already sent over a large container of supplies like clothing, medical and farming equipment, and even some computers.
All of these goods were donated by the community here in St. John's. So people here got together, donated goods. Now we put on board the container. The 8 people that are going each have their own unique skill set, and will be providing training to the people in the village on how to use the equipment that's on board the container.
He's a man of many hats and many impressions, and now Mark Critch is adding to that list. He is the new honorary chair of the Victoria Park Renewal Project, and we're going to talk all about that right after the break, right?
It's a tremendous development. It's going to knock your socks out. It's terrific.
And welcome back. Well, he has captured the likes of Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau with his devastating impersonations, and he's captured a loyal audience on This Hour Has 22 Minutes. Now, Mark Critch is hoping to connect in another way. He's taken on the role of honorary campaign chair for the Victoria Park Foundation. They're looking to drum up millions to revitalize the 130-year-old park in West End St. John's. So Mark, as if you haven't got enough to do, you've taken on this role. How did you get involved?
Well, I've always loved Victoria Park. I used to take my kids here a lot. And we'd walk through the park, and then I'd be telling them things like, well, Will, there was a time when there was a pool here. And he'd ask me, like, well, why isn't there a pool here now, Dad? And I don't really have a good answer for that, except that, you know, we kind of haven't been doing our part to upkeep it. And then one day I was walking along here, and I saw the World War I gun that's here, which was part of the 100 Days Offensive. It's a German war prize. It was actually a German gun that was shooting at Newfoundlanders. And that's from the same push that Tommy Ricketts won his Victoria Crossing. So, and it was kind of rotting away. It was falling apart. And I tweeted at the council, like, hey, is there anything we can do about this? And they're kind of like, well, actually, you know, we plan to do something about that. And then through the jigs and the reel, they asked me if I get involved in this. Absolutely, because this is an amazing place. It was put together by Newfoundlanders for Newfoundlanders, and we need to protect it.
I used to take my sons here to the pool, which was just up there. It's no longer there. I don't believe that's in the plans for the revitalization. But I have lots of memories, and you said you would bring your children here.
Yeah.
Is there anything that really stands out? I think there's a story of a river or something under here.
Oh yeah, I used to tell my kids, my dad used to tell me about this. So this is River Head. And there was a hospital right where we are now, and it was put here because it was quite quiet. So they got rid of the hospital. And up there, there was a river that flows down from Mundy Pond and goes into the Waterford River. And that would come down here. They filled in part of it because of, they put the ballpark in. And then the rest of it kind of flows down through here. And then very sadly, I believe in the 60s, there was a little boy who was playing, and he fell in the river, and he drowned. So then they covered in the rest of it. But that river still runs underneath here. There's culverts. So right below us right now is a big raging river.
Wow.
If you can believe that, and you'd never know it was here.
Well, I don't believe that's in the plan to
Not
revitalize
gonna open up the river.
park. But just bring us up to speed on what is planned.
Well, a lot of great plans. There's no river, there's no pool, but there are some amazing, really cool bubble fountains for kids to play in that are going to be there. It's a great water feature. Kids love that kind of thing. There's going to be an off-leash dog park, so you can come down with your dogs, have a lot of fun, and you know the whole park is off leash for youngsters, so they can run around. They're going to fix up that World War I gun and bring it back to its former glory. There's a fountain up here, which is a Monroe monument. People think, why is there a small jug on a big pillar? It's not a small jug, it's actually a working fountain. And there's revitalization all the way right up to the top of the park, so benches and great storyboards telling the history of the park, and new bridges, and it's going to be, you won't recognize the place. It'll be like a whole new spot.
And I guess the foundation is probably taking a few lessons from Bannerman Park and Bowring Park that have already been through this.
Yeah, they've been through that, and a bunch of great people have made that happen. They gave their time and energy, and they made Bowring Park so beautiful and Bannerman Park so beautiful. So now it comes to a whole new group of people to take this one on and to finish put that third jewel in the crown. And what better time? Victoria Day is coming up. So what better way to celebrate May 24th than either to come to Victoria Park or to donate to Victoria Park?
Okay, let's talk about the money. I know that the fundraising has started. What are you looking at raising, and how are you planning on doing it?
Well, we have $3 million to raise, which is a lot of money, especially in this economy. But we're going to raise $3 million, and the city is going to match $3 million. So if you donate or you get involved, every dollar is $2, which is fantastic, you know. And yes, we're going to have the big companies get involved. We're going to go after that corporate dollar, which is stretched pretty thin these days. But it's a pretty good, Debbie, pretty good neighborhood for that, because the neighbors, you got Pennacon over there, you got Campbell's across the street, Oceanex is over there. So come on, guys, get involved in the neighborhood. We're having a neighborhood cleanup. Come on down. So lean on those people, find corporate citizens. And that's important. But, you know, like so many other parts of the city, a lot of Victoria Park was built by your average person, the moms and dads, and that's what we're going to be leaning on. Memorial Stadium was all nickels and dimes from folks who wanted to have something there. So we're hoping that people will get involved, and those little donations, I mean, take the recycling back one day with the kids and take that money, maybe donate to the park, and then one day when you're walking through having fun at the park, you can say, well done, Billy, you helped build all this. And so we will get there, because Newfoundlanders, Labradors are generous people who care about the place, and we need more green spots in the city. We really do.
I don't think anybody would disagree with you there.
I
Good
hope
luck
not.
with the campaign. Thanks
Thank
for chatting with me.
Thanks for coming to the park.
Well, by now you're likely familiar with the ransomware cyber attack that has hit companies and governments around the world. Well, next we'll ask whether it's something you should worry about. Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, a lot of people feared computer systems around the world would be freezing again today, but the cyber attack that hit 150 countries at the end of last week appears to have died down.
Up to date, there has been isolated incidents in very limited areas.
Huge numbers of people in Asia were starting up their computers this morning for the first time since the attack started. Some systems in some countries were newly affected. The software worm freezes files and demands a ransom to make them accessible again, $300 in the computer currency Bitcoin. And of course, computers in this province certainly aren't immune to these cyber attacks. Computer security expert John Seary sees a lot of businesses fall victim to ransomware. This afternoon, we spoke with him about what you need to know to protect yourself. So tell us a bit more about how this ransomware works. So it can get onto your computer if you're targeted, and it can encrypt all of your data. Explain more about what that means to someone.
So what happens is that they may have opened an email, or it's come into the computer in some form or another. Customer may know, the client may notice that something is happening with their computer. It's running a little slowly. There might be an error message that comes up and it says you have to reboot or whichever. It depends on the particular version of the program. But once it's finished doing its encryption, a message will be displayed saying that you have now been encrypted, your data is not available, and giving you instructions as to how to go about paying the ransom. The payment of the ransom is a, is a little bit of an effort because it has to be done in a way that can't be traced, and the ones that we are familiar with would require that the customer go and purchase bitcoins and have that money transferred to a destination that you can't retrieve it from. Once that's paid and received, supposedly you will be sent a decryption code. However, there's no guarantee that you'll get a decryption code. You may just as likely get another demand for yet more money.
So what should someone do if they're hit with this?
Well, we actually have been successful in retrieving customers' data in the past. So depending on how their network is set up and depending on how they may have some form of a backup in place, we've been able to retrieve their data from time to time. We had one organization suggest that we go ahead with paying the ransom. However, we were able to retrieve their data back before they went ahead with that. But in either case, a good, well-protected network is the key. And it's not a lot of work, it just has to be the right stuff done. They come down to making sure that your systems are kept up to date, and that you have a good antivirus in place, and ideally you would also have some extra security at the router for the organization. If you have missed any of those, because any one of those will stop this, then hopefully you have very good backups that don't have your backup left attached to the network.
And is it mostly businesses, or does this happen to people's, just personal computers? Who's hit the most with it?
Anybody that has a computer that has any data on it of value, it doesn't necessarily know how much value your data is. It will run on any computer. A homeowner with a computer with the family photos on it won't have the kind of cash reserves necessarily as a 100-person business with their entire accounts payable tied up. And that's where you start to get the value in the data. If I asked any particular business owner right now, what is the cost of rekeying all of your accounting, if you can at all, or all the employee records, or all the customer histories? I will be told, oh, that's, in hundreds of thousands of dollars or more. Mm-hmm. And then you look at it and say, okay, well, how much now do we need to spend on protecting that data? Right. And we go from there.
How much of a problem is this going to be going forward?
It's going to keep being a problem. Because there are so many small businesses out there, in this province especially, that their idea of IT management is we'll go up to the latest big box store and buy a computer. Mm-hmm. When it comes time to protecting the data, people don't see it as having data that's of value to them. They put the accounting program on a computer, they started using it, and about 4 years later somebody said, I guess we should replace that computer. And then you ask them, okay, well, antivirus? Oh, we need that. I guess we should have that. It's an afterthought. It's always an afterthought. But there's enough of this, and the amounts that are being sought are great enough, and the hit to the business are great enough that it's certainly something that needs more protection against it. And it's easy to protect against. It's not rocket science for us. It's just a matter of understanding that the risk is there.
All right, John Seri, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The weather update is brought to you by Belltone Hearing Service St. John's, helping the world hear better.
Let's have a look at the longer range forecast right now, and this is a very important week, Ryan.
It is a very important week. There is a lot of pressure. There is and there isn't, because I think everybody expects the May 24th weekend to be a little bit of anything. Snow possible? Yes. Already looking possible for not only the island, but Labrador especially. I think the only thing we can definitely say with certainty is that everybody is in the same boat across the country right now. We're all hoping for May 24th weekend to finally turn the page, because spring really hasn't been very nice anywhere. Have a look at Fort Mac, just 8 degrees. I know Southern Ontario has had a terrible month or so wet and cool. But you can see the heat certainly building somewhere. Down in the U.S., Florida has had its hottest start to the year on record. All the way back to the late 1800s, they have not had a start this hot that it has been in 2017. 31 in Orlando right now, 32 in Des Moines. And again, that heat building up into the Great Lakes, where they're talking about high 20s as we roll towards Thursday, and some of that warmth pushing up into our neck of the woods for Thursday into Friday as well. Can we hang on to it for the weekend? Unfortunately, it does not look like that is the case. There's the low that will help to bring in that southerly flow, a low moving on, a little piece of energy moving on to the west coast of North America will be heading in our direction as we roll towards the long range as well. There is the next low, which is moving in as we speak. Periods of rain, drizzle, fog patches moving in tonight, continuing through the day on Tuesday, which looks like a wet one right across the island, up into Labrador as well. Looking at temperatures, cooler certainly in those onshore winds, but double-digit potential for pretty much everybody tomorrow. So at least while it'll be damp, it will be mild, and into Labrador again, a little cool in the straits with those onshore winds there. You can see with the wind contours, northerly winds coming in from Nain and towards Labrador City into the latter part of the day, and that will have cold air wrapping in on the other side of this system, and those northerlies will bring a risk of some wet flurries into, yes, Happy Valley Goose Bay up to the coast of Labrador through the day on Wednesday. Newfoundland will see some scattered showers on Wednesday, but really not too bad for a forecast in terms of temperatures for most. The west coast with a bit of a wind coming off the Gulf of St. Lawrence will certainly be a bit cooler at 6 degrees. 5, the high in Happy Valley Goose Bay and eastern Labrador, but temperatures perhaps tapering off into the afternoon as those northerly winds really punch in on the other side of this system. Note for Thursday, the first low departs. We've got another low coming in from the west, and this is where that warm air will really start to be building in with that next low. And so highs for Thursday, certainly on the rise, 15, 16 degrees, looking at mainly cloudy skies with scattered shower chances for western Newfoundland and scattered showers building in for you folks in Labrador as well. So the long range setup shows this low moving in on Friday. Good push of southerly air, which means a warm day. Shower chances for Friday as the front comes through. The low will move to the north, and then this is where we're still looking at some uncertainty. How quickly does that low depart? Does it depart slowly like this forecast model is showing, which would keep the northerly winds in the mix not only for Saturday but into Sunday and possibly into Monday? That's where my forecast is right now. But if that low is faster, then you can see western Newfoundland into that ridge a little bit faster there, 10 degrees. That would be some of the potential air that would be moving into central and eastern Newfoundland a little bit earlier as well. So it's all about timing right now. Yeah, we've seen better forecasts than that, certainly, but it's a long week, and we'll take our time getting there, and hopefully the forecast models will do some shuffling in the meantime. We'll keep you posted.
Time to introduce you to our first young athlete of the day for this week, and this is Austin Lee from Grand Bank. Austin is 11 years old.
And he plays hockey with the United Towns Pirates, and we hope you had a fun season, Austin.
Congratulations on being chosen as today's young athlete of the day.
Donnelly was a loving, caring mother. You know, she put her daughter first.
Police in Manitoba say they're waiting for official autopsy results, but family members of a young woman in Manitoba say they've been told she was mauled to death by a pack of dogs. The woman's body was found over the weekend on Little Grand Rapids First Nation, northeast of Winnipeg. Donnelly Rose Eaglestick was discovered early Saturday morning, surrounded by about 30 dogs by workers at a water treatment plant. Eaglestick, who was raised by her aunt and uncle, was a mother of a 5-year-old girl. To international news now. The U.S. is accusing the Syrian government of carrying out mass killings of thousands of prisoners and burning the bodies in a large crematorium outside the capital. The State Department says about 50 detainees a day are being hanged at Sednaya military prison. It says the crematorium is being used to hide evidence of the killings.
We now believe that the Syrian regime has installed a crematorium in the Sednaya prison complex, which could dispose of detainees' remains with little evidence.
According to the State Department, these photographs show a building in the prison complex that has been modified to support the crematorium.
We have new video of North Korea's successful weekend test of a new type of ballistic missile. This launch was broadcast live on state television. International observers say it shows a significant technological jump. The weapon apparently flew higher and longer than any tested so far. That's especially worrisome for the West and South Korea because, according to Pyongyang, the missile could carry a nuclear warhead.
About 400 people in BC's central Okanagan are still under evacuation orders and alerts. Floodwaters in the region remain high, and there's more rain in the forecast. Emergency officials are concerned about water levels in Okanagan Lake. Residents are being advised to keep their sandbags in place. Crews are also studying the safety of a nearby slope after a landslide Saturday forced the evacuation of 17 homes. Melting snow at higher altitudes also means the flooding concerns could last well into June.
Well, singer Nicki Minaj says she's launching an official charity to help students who are deep in debt. The hip-hop star made waves when she started paying some lucky fans tuition and loan payments about a week ago.
Now it looks like she's making that an ongoing thing and says she'll have more details very soon. In the meantime, Minaj says she'll be going on another impromptu spending spree in the coming months. Well, here's a story about an important piece of jewelry hidden inside another. An Australian man carved a necklace for his girlfriend who wore it every day for a year and a half without knowing there was an engagement ring inside. He says there were a couple of close calls. He thought at one point he might have to make an airport security proposal, but all went according to plan. On a trip to a Scottish cave, he popped the necklace open and popped the question. That looks like a yes.
It's a good thing she didn't lose it.
Oh my goodness.
Nice. We'll talk about going to the wall for your team.
He gets on top of that one, hits it deep center. Buxton racing, galloping at the wall.
Oh.
He made the catch somehow.
This is Byron Buxton of the Minnesota Twins, adding his name to the Catch of the Year conversation. Not everyone was thrilled with the play, but it's safe to say Cleveland was in the minority when it comes to this bit of sensational center fielding.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Great catch.
It definitely is a fabulous catch, but ow. He probably had a headache.
Great stuff. All right, have a look at tomorrow where we've got the onshore winds. The showers, drizzle, and fog will keep the clouds thick across the island. And again, fog and those onshore winds. Variable winds along the west coast should get to 14 again for Corner Brook. And yes, so you can see there's not much sun. And despite the fact that they were trying to trap the sun today in White Wave, Trinity Bay. Like that, the lobster season open. And this great picture thanks to Leanne Gallivan, who said, yeah, tried her best there to trap the sun, but not happening.
It's a lovely picture.
Thanks, Leanne. And that's our program for this Monday. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Night.
Good night.